Hello, this is Professor MCal. Thanks for tuning in to this video. It's been a while since I posted, and many of you know why my page was taken down, so it's taken me a little time to get it going again. I hope that this presentation finds you well. This is about Christianity and mysticism in the Roman Empire. Very interesting subject I've studied for a long time, many years. I want to give a shout out to my esteemed colleague, Master Mook. He is at Mookie's Tarot Zone. Check him out on YouTube. You will like it. Again, thank you for tuning in, and thank you to the many new subscribers that I've had recently. I appreciate that. Okay. So I've talked about this before. The ancient world was made up of cults. Some prominent cults were the cult of Dionysus, the cult of Mithra. It's probably where we get our modern word myth. Zeus, Kronos, who is Saturn, etc. Zeus is Jupiter in ancient Rome, inherited from the Greeks. It's important to note that in the empire of ancient Rome, the emperor was recognized as a living deity. Rome was secular. You could worship freely as long as you acknowledge the divinity of the emperor. It's interesting to note that many of the Jews that lived under the Roman Empire would have none of this, and this caused a great deal of trouble for them. In 70 A.D., they were expelled from Jerusalem by the emperor Vespasian, who had his son Titus go down there and attack Jerusalem. This is where the one of the second great diaspora was, and the Jews spread out throughout Europe and the Middle East after this event. It's also important to note that Vespasian used the money that was looted from the temple, the Second Temple, to build the Colosseum. Very interesting. If you are interested in ancient Rome and the emperors, Vespasian had a fascinating life and reigned for quite a long time. He brought the empire back from the brink, and he was very tough and very smart, and I think he had a very agreeable personality. I think his personality type might have been akin to somebody like Joe Rogan today. Okay. Apotheosis is elevation to the status of God. The term comes from Greek, of course, apotheon, to make a god. It implies a polytheistic concept of gods. It also recognizes that some individuals cross the line between gods and men. The Roman emperor was recognized as going through this process upon death. This probably started with Julius Caesar, who was obviously an integral part of turning the republic into an empire. Rome was a kingship for 300 years, a republic for 500, and then an empire for about 1400. It's one of the most significant events in the history of humankind. It is really the beginning of the establishment of a world order, one that still is alive today, of course. Okay, so Christianity, as we all know, is the most popular religion in the world. It was not a state-sanctioned religion when it began. It began after the death of Jesus, so it was not created by the Roman government, nor was it propagated by Roman authority. As a matter of fact, the Romans really didn't like it at all for a very long time, for hundreds of years. This has probably got to do with some of the rituals of drinking symbolic blood, eating symbolic flesh, etc., and so forth. It was misunderstood, and I think that it is one of the last vestiges of the religions of human sacrifice that have come out of the ancient world. Of course, Jesus was sacrificed, etc., and we still, many people still wear the cross, and I think it's important to note that the cross itself is basically the equivalent of the electric chair today. It was a torture device. But the cross itself would most likely not have been two pieces of wood in a cross like that. It probably would have been more like a board nailed to a tree, and your ankles would have been nailed to the side of the tree and your hands to the board. This is also a symbol of the crux in the sky, the cross in the sky that the sun dies on. So the legend of Jesus is both. I would say that it's mixed in and is a composite of the religions of the time, Roman emperors, Mithraism, sun worship. In fact, Roman Catholicism is sun worship dipped in Jesus. Okay, it went too far. Here we go. There we go. Okay, so Roman religions, like most, I wouldn't say all, but most religions of the ancient world are based on fertility. Here we have, I believe this is, it's not, it's Sybil. Sybil. This is the goddess Sybil. Close to where I live, there's a mural of this goddess. People, in secret, high power, elite people still worship goddesses like this today. She has the many breasts. She has the sun disk behind her head. She's a symbol of fertility, because back then it was really, really important that your children grow up to be fertile. So Christianity and Catholicism have inherited a lot of these fertility rites. One of them is Easter, of course. Easter is the word Easter is also Ishtar, Babylonian fertility goddess. Easter, Ishtar. East Star is also the sun, of course, and you take your children to go see the Easter bunny. And then when they're done, they go find eggs, of course, and these are, of course, fallopian eggs. The eggs are actually painted exclusively red in Rome and Greece. So whoever finds the egg is going to be fertile as well. So the Roman sun worship religion was the most prominent, and this is tied in with the legend of Jesus. Now, there is a part of me that does believe in Jesus for sure. Most anthropologists, religious studies scholars, and historians do agree that there was a historical Jesus, but that this person would have been born around the 3rd or 4th of April in about 3 or 4 AD, so after the year 0. I don't know, everything about Jesus. I don't. I do believe in him, but I think that the historical figure that is Jesus has been crossed over, of course, the image of him at least, with Roman emperors, particularly Constantine and later Charlemagne. That's why the images of Jesus that we have the long hair, the beard, etc., and so forth. This is a depiction of the Roman emperors, more of the Roman emperors rather than what Jesus actually looked like. He probably would have looked more like, Gandhi or somebody like that. So there is a part of me that believes in Jesus. But his story and his life is inexorably linked forever to Roman sun worship. So it's both, I think it's both real and myth crossed together. And that's the historical picture we have of Jesus now. Fertility in the ancient world. Fertility cults ruled the ancient world, again, because it was really important for your children to reproduce. Children died more often in childbirth. And if you wanted your bloodline to survive, you would make sacrifices to different goddesses. You would worship different goddesses. And I was explaining the Easter bunny is a symbol of fertility because rabbits are always humping the shit out of each other a mile a minute. So in ancient Rome, the bunny was a symbol of fertility, and our rituals on Easter are derivative of this. Christmas is coming up. It's important to note that December 25th is actually the winter solstice. It's the shortest day of the year. This has nothing to do whatsoever with the birth of Jesus. I hate to break it to you. Some people may disagree. As a matter of fact, a lot of people do disagree, and that's absolutely fine. I'm willing to talk about that and hear different people's opinions on here. So please feel free to comment on that. This was the end of the Saturnalia festival, I believe, in ancient Rome. So this day was a big one, and when Constantine converted the empire around 300 or 325 AD to Christianity, he did so while also placating the pagans at the time. So Christmas was crossed over with the birth of Jesus, and if you're Roman Catholic, you still celebrate that today. Many people celebrate that today, but it is the winter solstice. It's not the birth of Jesus. Sun worship. Here we go. Okay, so here is the former pope with basically the sun, or it's the sun and the moon in the middle and the sun around it, with the cross, etc. Here's the sun dying on the cross, or southern crux in the sky. This is derivative of ancient Roman sun worship. Clearly. There's a lot of other stuff going on with Christianity. I'm very into mystical Christianity, Orthodox, Bulgarian Orthodox, Greek Orthodox fascinates me quite a bit. But Catholicism itself comes from Roman sun worship. And the word is actually cat and Helios together, because the ancient Egyptians worshipped cats, and I think that is descendant of that crossed with Helios, the sun god Helios. So you have Catholicism, just like you have, there's other words with holic in it, or alcoholic, or holy, Catholic, stuff like that. We have the monstrance, M-O-N in Latin, I believe, is for moon. This is the moon stand. Again, you can see the sun and the moon together. This is basically just the sun. This is just a physical version of a star dying on the cross. This is Catholic stuff. Sun worship. Like I said, Catholicism is ancient Roman sun worship dipped in Jesus. This was initiated by Emperor Constantine. Eventually, from the year 0, which the year 0 we're going to talk about a little bit more as well, but about 300 or 325 years after the year 0, the Emperor Constantine, who was a very interesting individual and an emperor for a long time, 40 years, died of natural causes. There was 4 emperors, 2 in the east, 2 in the west. When he gained power, and over the course of a few years, there was only 1 emperor left. He turned the Roman Empire into a Christian empire, which is one of the most significant events in the history of the world. It affected Western history, in the history of the world, hugely throughout the millennia, and it still affects us today. The emperor most likely was a pagan, or was a pagan when he grew up. He grew up with traditional Roman religions, but his subsequent conversion was political and in the best interest of the ruling class of Rome, because the Christians basically would just not go away, and this religion just grew and grew and grew and grew. It was hated at first, but over the centuries became the dominant religion in the empire, and this is the religion that has been bequeathed to us from ancient Rome. The year 0 marks the beginning of the Roman Empire and the subsequent quest for a global government. The beginning of the Roman Empire happened at the year 0. So Julius Caesar died, I believe about 60 years before the, or no, maybe a little bit less, before the year 0. The year 0 marks the beginning of the empire. It does not really mark the birth of Jesus. Again, this is crossed over with the myth and the legend of Jesus. But the year 0 signifies the beginning of the global empire that's rearing its ugly head today. Caesar and Jesus are intertwined within this frame. They're both JC. What do most scholars think about Jesus? Well, it really depends on who you ask, but I'll say that outside of the Bible, there is a very small amount of written testimony or evidence about Jesus. One of them comes from the ancient historian Josephus, who was a fascinating individual. I'd like to do a presentation just on him and his life. Josephus, there was another one that was later found to be a forgery by Eusebius in the 4th century. That's the 300s. There are a couple, but they only add up to about a page worth of text. There's not much outside the Bible. Now, I said earlier that the most religious studies scholars, historians, and anthropologists do believe that there was a historical Jesus. But the Jesus that we have today really is a composite of messianic leaders of the time, Mithra, the sun worship of ancient Rome, and fertility rites. Our inheritance rests squarely on the shoulders of the Roman Empire, and I do mean that in a big way. Our system of laws, of government, our language, our religion, the way we live our daily lives really is traceable back to the Roman Empire. Where's Julius Caesar in all this? Caesar was the person that took the empire took the republic into becoming an empire. He basically went to Gaul, which is now modern France, where there was a lot of fighting and tribes that didn't like the Romans, and they gave him a really hard time. And he went there, and if any of you guys are familiar with Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad or Apocalypse Now, the film, which is loosely based on the book, Caesar went Colonel Kurtz, basically went out there and started fighting the war the way that he saw fit, and he was winning. And he was out there for 6 years. The Roman people really, really loved Caesar for this, but he did not do what the aristocracy wanted. He defied the Senate, and he made a lot of enemies in this. So eventually he was killed. Julius Caesar is one of the most significant people that ever lived. He was very, very strong and very, very smart and a great leader. In my opinion, eventually he was assassinated by his friends on the Ides of March, and I think that some of the Jesus myth at the time was created to trick some of the people, and Jews in particular, into worshiping the emperor through this deity who was both part real and who was both real and part myth. So that's a little bit for you today. I appreciate you watching this presentation. This was kind of a quick one, but the amount of information here is just humongous. You can do your own research on this. I mean, there's plenty of it out there. So please provide us some feedback. Questions and thoughts are welcome, of course. If you could comment and subscribe, that'd be terrific. I'm going to try to bring you some content a little bit more often, maybe about once every 2 weeks. I really appreciate everybody who watches this video a heck of a lot. I'm glad that there's people out there that enjoyed this this stuff, and I'm looking forward to talking to you all very soon. Thank you again, and God bless.